1990, Chubb Rock jumps upon the scene with a lean and a pocket full of green. The green doesn't symbolize I made it on the top, but RoboCop last year was a shock. The tone of the Popeye cut shook your butt. Kids are screaming, the media says what? Kind of music is this for you to dance to? The man with the plan and the band demands you. Leave the smack and the crack for the whack, throw the ball and the knock, keep a smile like that. Leave the knife and the gun in the store and ignore temptation sent by the nation. Racial game cause it's pain needs a new rep. In your heart and mind, never forget you set Hawkins, and when you're walking, you know what you're squatting. Black on black, remember that it's important. Anyway, the shunless one bring forth the fun. No hatred, the summer's almost done. No time for sleep. Jump in your Jeep and pump up the funky beat. Holy beaver goes off, yo, smash it, then trash it. You're too young to be plumped in a casket. Just get your boys and bring the noise and just swing it. And party people sing it.
So now this this will be Read the Room is the name. Tolliver actually helped me with the name. At first I named it Feel Free because I don't want my name in it. But then me and Tolliver were talking. This will be episode 3. As you guys see, Tolliver isn't here. This is Read the Room. This is another read. But as he said, it was like he was talking about reading the room while he was talking. And he was like, you should name it that. So then that's what we switched the name to.
That's it.
So yeah, this is episode 3. Now, we did an episode yesterday, but we kind of like ventured into something else, so we're going to make that like a different thing. So this would be episode 3 officially, and you're the first guest that I had. So here we are. Everybody, this is my dad, so he's going to be the first guest that I have on Read the Room. And pretty much what I was going to go into it is, I'm going to talk about fatherhood and us being we're both the last child, and we're both, of our families, we're both the youngest. And the thing I know about the youngest child is they often do stuff like this. The youngest child also always, it's a thing, it's like a study that the youngest child always seems to find some sort of venue or some way to express. They're more creative because they're the last one.
Oh, yeah.
So they have to find some sort of output as far as acting or reading or writing because it's just way it trickles down to, like, the older children become more parental earlier because they're the oldest. They have to be parents quicker than the middle child is kind of like the forgotten ones, I think. They kind of just do whatever. And then the youngest seem to be the most energetic or like outgoing because they're trying to like find a resource or something that's their own because they're the last child. And I kind of feel like we both do that same thing.
Yeah, 100%. First of all, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. But yeah, you're right because exactly when you was talking about the older children becoming more parental. I mean, in the case of my siblings, I had to do things that they didn't succeed in life as far as school or graduation even. I was the first one to graduate high school because brothers and all of them went to work at early age. So, they did become more parental. And then I shared the exact thing as you did. Yeah, I had to get out and find just my own niche.
So, and another thing I noticed, I talked to Tolliver about, that you watched a lot of comics and you were in Marvel and everything like that. And I found that's like a direct correlation to me because I watch a lot of cartoons and Marvel and anime is one of my favorite things. And I watch it a lot. And I know that's like genetically traced back to you because I know that didn't come from mom or that didn't come from like the other side of the family. That's like a direct correspondence to you because if you hadn't watched those things and if you hadn't done it, I wouldn't have the trait from you to go watch it. So it's like I know I could, but it's a direct lineage back to you because if you didn't watch those things, the likelihood of me watching them would be, a lot less.
Yeah, 100%. And again, what you're saying, the creativity of being the youngest, the comic books were my adventure, unto myself. And I knew like my dad and my brothers, they wouldn't understand any of that. So, but it would gave me release into a whole nother world of these people, these creatures, these beings that, you know, control their own destiny and got out there and did marvelous things. So I think even with reading all of those comic books allowed me to think about like even the Air Force. I mean, these things that seem huge to a lot of people I share them with, to me it was all like, it was all attainable because I came up on this, all this fiction of these people that did all these great things. And so yeah, and I can remember even sharing the comic books with you and reading the comic books and enjoying all of that. And so yeah, you're right there.
But that's nothing. I was thinking. Well, I went to the Army. Obviously, when my sister, she went too. That's another one of our direct correlations. It's like you did military. I was military, and you know, you did comedy and stand up. You've performed on stage. I've performed on stage. Our mimicry of things is very similar, and just out of all, I mean, because you know you have multiple children, but out of your children, who do you think that you see the most in? Just if you thought about it, like out of all of us, or what parts of us do you see? What parts of you do you see in us, like individually?
Well, and it was a time when I nicknamed you all, and right off the top of my head, I won't remember all of those nicknames, but they were like, that's my conscience there, and I believe that was Linnell. And but the one with you was like my curiosity that took me out there and was like, wonder what that's like. It didn't surprise me at all when you joined the Army. It was a decision that you made on your own, but I made my decision all on my own. When I joined the Air Force, I didn't tell Mom, I didn't tell Dad. It was like, you know, I went through the career guidance day and they told me this and that. Actually, the best thing they wanted me to be was a mortician, because there was a lot of black men weren't morticians, and it was a highly lucrative career field. And you think, which is sorry to bring up with the pandemic, but I meet a lot of black men now. I mean, it was like your guidance counselor really turned you on to a lucrative career field. But I decided the Air Force again from all of those comic books and that adventure there. So the day when you came in and said that you wanted to join the Army, I was like, I felt my...
I'll have to edit this little part because I ran out of memory, so I cut where we were at, and then now I'm gonna just try to go back into what we were saying. But I know we were on comedy and taking the stage and somewhere in that area. I know you were in the middle of that.
Oh yeah, and so when I was continuing your discussion on the leniency between our lives, and then being the youngest born. So when the stage came calling to you, when you got that call and you said you were going to do stand up, and of course I was like, hey man, go ahead, do your thing. But what amazed me, that reminded me of myself, was that, you know, the vigor that you had, that you were, you know, I told folks he's a natural. Just as, you know, I felt the same way when the stage came my way. It was just, you know, something that, and again, I'll tell you, when you're talking about older siblings, my brothers all asked me, like, all of them, that there's no way in the world that they could do anything like that. And it's, when I look at you all, you and your brothers and sisters, I don't see them with the vigor that you had. I know your oldest brother had rapped and stuff too, so he got a little entertainment too. And then with your sister Linnell, you know, we kind of forced that. Put her in classes, but it all came from you.
And that's why, like, Tim was rapping a little bit, and that's why, I know I'm not a rapper. I know I can't do it because I don't have the bravado to match it. That's why I feel like comedy is easy, because you're just you in different levels and complexities of you. And and I feel like it goes back to the youngest sibling, which I know it's like in a study or something that the youngest sibling is usually one that does that, because it just offers that we just have a bigger imagination, and I just feel like we're usually the one that's kind of doing our own thing because the other siblings are like already in school, or they're a couple
Yeah.
grades ahead of you, or they already went to these classes and they already done that, so you
Getting
kinda,
jobs,
yeah,
trying
and they're
to find their
driving,
wives and all those things, and when they get tired of taking you to the movies and things like that. I had great siblings, and we did those things. But it came time that in the early '70s they started having these exploitation films. So my brothers weren't so comfortable taking me to the movies, so I started having that alone time. And in fact, that's when I filled that void with reading the comic books and grabbing a basketball, things I could just do by myself, and find ways to get this energy that was inside of me out. And then again, the youngest one, I don't know, I'd be curious if you felt the same, but it's like a weight, like, they're expecting something from me that they didn't expect from each other. Like my oldest brother, he didn't expect too much from the second oldest. They just pretty much grew. But I could just tell there were things they was like, and it wasn't set in stone what it was, but we're expecting something from you because you're the last.
yeah.
You're the last. So I knew that. And they would tell me the things, of course, great siblings, my brothers would tell me you can't shoot dice, if I catch you shooting dice or on your knees, I'm going to beat you like you're not my brother. So they would put, and that's that parental
And
stuff.
you had 11 siblings?
I had
10?
nine.
Nine?
Living. Two, that was the two twins that passed before me. And those were the two that you're counting there. Yeah, so they put all of these brackets on me. I couldn't do this. You can't do that. You can't gamble. You can't do anything illegal. You can't do this. You can't do that. So I had to find things that I could do. And it just so happened all those things that I found to do were always creative stuff. They offered a violin at school. I played the violin. My brothers looked at, black folks don't play the violin. It was like of all the instruments. But Mom was very supportive, and actually he was an older guy, his name was Charlie Pride. But my mom was like, and I could see him on TV, she was like, yeah, there's a black man, and if it wasn't a black man, you could be the first. But just again, that silver robbery, the violin, dude, why not the drums or the guitar? But yeah, I wanted me to pick something, I picked my thing, and my thing was violin.
Oh, and then since we mentioned like movies and comics and everything, how do you see it? How do you feel about seeing it from its inception, back from like Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, and seeing them on paper to seeing the Avengers and Endgame and Thor? Like, how is that? How have you, and to see Black Panther?
Yeah, and I mean, wow, that's a great question because it just blows my mind, and it's funny how as a child, reading that comic book and doing all of this imaginating. Man, they had great artists, and they could draw what you know yourself. And but when I got to see the movies, Thor and on the screen, it just brought me back to childhood because it's exactly how I imagined it. Plus, what all the special effects, that it was just like all that stuff was in that little kid's head. Even then, I was like, wow. And it doesn't surprise me now. These are all blockbusters. Mm-hmm. I mean, in my day, they thought I was a nerd or whatever they called silly and these things for reading a comic book. But there was still, those values that they gave. But it just blows my mind.
So growing up because you grew up mostly in like the 70s?
In the 70s, born in 1961, and I'll give a quick synopsis over there. Born in 1961, and now this flipped the subject, but we are going through Black Lives Matter now and that movement. But born in 1961, father and mother from Harts Cave, Kentucky, so I was a city boy. In fact, I was the only one of my siblings born not in the country. So I basically grew up in the country because we went there for our major holidays and every 2 weeks in the summer. And so then the 60s was hot. And then in 1968, of course, is when Martin Luther King was assassinated. So my world changed in 1960. I was 7 years old. And at 7 years old, innocence was taken away. So at 7 years old, I knew how the world and looked at me as a black man, and that they might see a little lesser in that. But because I had indulged in reading all the comic books and all this stuff inside of me, I was my own little Superman. But in the time period that's coming up then, it was the '70s stuff. It was like for lack of a better word, it was innocent. Mm-hmm. You know, folks broke off half of their candy bar and shared it with you. People would give you a hamburger if you came over to their friend's house to eat, that type of thing.
How would you compare the '70s? Being that, I mean, you know, we all have our eras that we were born in, but mine being the '90s, '95 to 2000s, which I think I fit that era. I think that I think me being born in '95 matches that. So, how would you compare childhood to the '70s to being like a 2010 kid? Do you think that that's a lot worse for them now, or do you think it is what it is for?
Well, no. You right on it. You right on it, Terrence. I think if I don't think I could handle it. You know, I believe that I was, like you said, I was in my right era. The things that my era needed from me, and the things that my era taught me. You know, I was a Martin Luther King fan and all of that. So what my era needed from me, I was able to plug that in and benefit from, learn from it. I mean, something as recently as the pandemic. You know, I told, you know, if anybody's like, I had my first child when I was 25 years old. And I told anyone that had a child at 25 in the pandemic, I mean, God bless. I mean, I would have no clue how to handle that. I wouldn't, none whatsoever. So I just thank God that I was allowed to have you all without doing that. Because I mean, you're right. Each era just has its
They have their own. Yeah, I mean, they have their own ups and downs, and their own, because to me now it's just that all of the kids from the 2000s and the 2005 to the 2010s, and then going on the 2020 kids and the 2030 kids, they're getting so much. Like there's a 7-year-old who's doing this exact same thing that we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Because that's what they know. They were born with an iPhone next to them, and it, not by circumstance. It's just that they were born into an era where they can have a watch and a phone and Bluetooth, all of it together, just in a matter of moments. And they're 3. And it's just like they can see all these things, and they can get so much more information, but also at that same turn, they can see the world a lot faster and a lot quicker than they maybe need to or should.
Yeah. Now on now I think parts of that's great, because I always wanted to, you know, it's interesting. I can remember as a child, I was very I observant. I remember everything. I remember grandma baking the biscuits. I remember mother and grandmother talking about me when they thought I was too young to know that they were talking about me. But I was very observant. Now, I didn't have more tools to run to be exactly and put together what they meant. But I was very observant. I just hope that with having everything at your disposal now, that, like you said, you can, a 7-year-old can do this thing here. And on that tip, see, this is another thing that doesn't surprise me about you and your creative outlet. But I would just hope that they don't lose the being observant of exactly what's around. Still knowing, like, grandma's over there, and like,
because you got to go without cell phones pretty much for a good amount, not to the capacity we have them now. That's what I'm saying. You still had cassettes and Walkmans and everything. I mean, you got to go through technology. That's what I mean. You had to. You started from the back end to even what was before VHS, like Amtrak, that other thing.
Yeah, well, I'll tell
that
you,
other Betamax, all that stuff, and I only know that because you know that.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. So you got to see technology
come in. I mean, when my hot new item that I got probably around my 8th Christmas present that I asked a Santa Claus to bring me was an AM transistor radio. And it's AM, mind you, not FM, but it was AM. So I was listening to alternative music, but that was the technology of the day. If you didn't have that AM transistor. And so from that to like what we have now, and you're right, I got to see the AMs turn to AM FMs. Then the big change came when Walkman came out, because we start fitness hit in the 80s. Everybody wanted to get in shape. After the 70s, I guess everybody we all ate, danced, and drank and had fun. But the 80s came and folks started thinking about getting in
The
shape.
70s was kind of like the chill, free love, hippie type.
It was the chill, free
type
love, hippie type. I mean, it was so free that as a child, I would take my uncle's shoes to the shoe shine stuff, and the sisters used to walk and come up and just give you a peck on the cheek, just be like, "You go, boy." And it was just, all of that was going on. I mean, it was no more than just saluting me as a young black male, but it was like all of that was going on. And so when the 80s came, though, the 80s came and fitness hit. So everybody wanted to get fit. So just in the 80s, though, they started saying, well, how can we take music and get fit? So boom, here comes the Walkman on your hip. And you're right, I still have VCRs today. Your mother wants to know why I keep them around, but it's like
it's just like nostalgia in a way.
it's my nostalgia.
And also, I mean, and it's like you know how to work it.
It's there now.
You just know what it is, so it's an attachment to it because you know the ins and outs of it. It's just kind of, I know the newer stuff is kind of more foreign because it's just like you haven't had this for this amount of time, so you won't be. I mean, it's normal with anybody. If you gave a man, it's like the guy who got a sword, the guy who's been carrying a sword for centuries, and you give him a gun. He's not gonna understand the gun because he fight with a sword. It's that mental of like, I don't fight with a gun. I fight with a sword. Like, so for him to get the gun, it's gonna be like, I shoot people. It's just like, but it's that tradition and that nostalgia of that's what you use, and that's just kind of what you adapted to.
Yeah, and it's funny how we're creatures of habit, some of us. And speaking of cell phone, I mean, maybe I should be ashamed to say it, but I didn't even get a cell phone until maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, I got one from my wife, and for her to have it at her fingertips, but the OG that I was I'd rather go to a payphone and instead of branching out to that. So, but that is just how fast that this technology has started turning. And of course, I have a cell phone
But
now.
no, that's something. It's just like in your core. It's just like earlier, I was at Meijer today, and then there's a guy who had 3 phones. He had 3 cell phones. I saw them in his hand. Why he had 3, I don't know. But it's just like I just looked at his hand. He had 3 phones. He was holding together. I don't know what world he needs 3 phones for.
Yeah.
And I know for him, he probably got 5 more at his house. Because I could just tell he likes phones. So for whatever he's using each phone for, but and then some people a lot of people don't like, and then that goes even to social media, segueing from that, and like Twitter and Instagram and all that. A lot of people, like celebrities now, some people be like, I won't get on Instagram or take make posts about stuff because they don't like the internet of what the internet is doing now, because everybody can see you, everybody can say something, everybody can comment. As to obviously like what the internet was before, or what you seen the internet be. It used to just be send emails and like make copies and like fax stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what it was all about. Now, in the 80s, when all of that became vogue, I'm back in the United States Air Force, so we've got everything state of the art then. So I did become literate with computers, and we had to learn how to type and all of that. So I do know the genre, but as far as I only have a Facebook post, because I've heard people that of my age, it was like, well, you better have a thick skin, because somebody could say something that you know, you might not agree with, or they can it's an avenue where they can express an opinion back if you express an opinion out there. So, but I'm pretty much cool with all that. I think it's right on its time now. But just like everything, with the transistor AM radio, you know, there was kids that took it in the bathtub. Now, mom and dad told us it can't go in the bathtub, but you know, you have to be careful with all technology because someone take it in the bathtub and then hurt themselves that way. So, tech is just, you have to take it for what it's for, and then just remember that there's ways that tech can come back and bite, and as long as you have that, you can foresee that, then I got no problem with tech.
So okay, another thing, since we were talking about fatherhood, and that you became a dad at the age I am right now, and that I didn't really get to meet. I never met your dad, like he never met me. So what? Well, first, what do you think his impression of me would be if we did meet? If you just from what you know of him.
Oh yeah. Well, first of all, he fell in love with you. Because again, now I'll share that seed of mine from the from acting and stuff. My father did introduce that to me just by happenstance. He used to love the Ed Sullivan Show, so we would watch the Ed Sullivan Show, and he was like, "Timmy, I want you to see this group," and it was the Jackson 5. So he was crazy about the Jackson 5, but he seen them as a proud, because again, here we are coming in 68, 69, 1970. You know, Black Power and all of this. So then you got the baddest group in America, in the world. This is not the Beatles. These are 5 black dudes. And the fact that they from Indiana, I mean, Popcorn, as we affectionately call my dad, Popcorn was like, I want you to see these the Jackson 5, Timmy, come watch them. I mean, get the popcorn and everything. Everybody come, all of the siblings, come and watch these black boys get down. And I watched those black boys get down. And then something about Michael it stirred something in my brain. Now, I never got to share that with my father, but he saw me start trying to perform and become an actor, and I know that he liked Sanford and Son. He liked these types of shows. So the fact that I went in there, I knew he was proud. I think he was just as proud of that as I was in the United States military. Now, had he met you and seen what you do and all of that, you'd have been right up his alley, because that's, I mean, you took pride in going to school, and that made him proud. You see, one thing my father and I went on my dad said that my last name Reed, and he told me there's just one thing on this planet that you better not ever be able to do. And I asked him what was that. He said, read. And I said, read. He said, yes, it's your last name, boy. But other than that is because, again, here's them generations. He was illiterate. My father didn't know how to read. He started working for him, said, I would say 13, 14, he left school in the 4th grade to work as a man. And so, but having he seen you, 1, performing, 2, loved school and education, 3, you served in the military. He was proud of the military. He was just too short to if he had the body that the service would allow him. But yeah, I believe that father would be enamored with you. And you don't know how much I have dreams where he's met all of y'all. And he's come and said, Timmy, and this is Terrence, and I like him, and this and that. And it's funny when he comes, he doesn't visit me in my dreams a lot now, but every now and then, especially like after you were born, I would have dreams where he would come in and say, hey, but then in that same token, you know, it was like the things that he taught me, I shared them, you know, and that's why it was always about, you know, school and the same type of things, because these are the things that he was afraid of what this country, and my mom too on that one, because again, those turbulent 60s, and they was wanting to like, is America gonna be cool for my sons as they black? And
and even at that same time, if we're coming to the 2020s, it's like the same thing.
It's like the
Like,
same thing.
almost not worse, but just we got phones, you know, we can record it, we can show you, we can visibly show you it. You know, now it was just kind of like, you know, back then you could get pulled over, you get arrested, and you wouldn't know. I mean, the cop could do whatever, he'd go back to the precinct or whatever, you know. But now we got dash cams, we got street corner lights, we got people recording. You know, we got it's a lot more people, like, they're gonna see it. You know, so it's not as I think Will Smith said that racism isn't getting worse; it's just getting recorded.
It's just getting recorded. And now here's the thing I struggle with. Now I try to wonder, like in my time coming up, was it better when I phrased this? I don't know if it was better that we didn't know it or it's better that we did. And what I preface that by is this. Like I said, now when I come from the South part, I could understand that there was some different mentalities as far as when I left Indiana and then went to the South. But the fact that I could just see it and tell it, so I knew how to handle it and carry myself. And but now, as you said, you can record it and we can see it, and then it's still the same. There's the officers are getting off, and some officers the other day, the ones that put the bag over some dude's head, you know, they all got acquitted. I mean, another brother died, but the officers got acquitted. So I'm like, would that enrage me more than knowing, well, there's an underground, like they're doing it, we don't know it, but now we all know it.
Yeah.
We got 1,000 eyes, the whole world can see it. And then it's almost as if the same,
But you're getting
same,
the same outcome.
we're getting the same outcome.
Yeah.
So I don't know which is worse or which is better, but I guess the more we expose, and I guess no lies can hit. I guess I'll go with what Will Smith said. Yeah.
But no, I know what you mean. It's like we're clearly recording it and documenting it, but we're getting the same outcomes mostly because even though like we see it, it's just like the officer gets let go or not even let go, suspended with pay, on leave or whatever, administrative leave. Then he like comes back to work like a month later or whatever, and it's kind of like I know what you're saying. It was like, well, if I get what you're saying. Like if we didn't see it and we didn't know it, will we feel better morally or like internal? But like now we do see it and we know what's happening, and there's still no difference. So it's kind of
Yeah. Cause I walked and because a lot of things that and then the 80s was pretty cool though racially and around because we came out of that kumbaya of the 70s, that love fest. Everybody's getting fit. We're all in gyms together. It was like the 80s was like I didn't see much about race, even in the military, traveling all those states and stuff. It just wasn't out there as much that seen unseen. But now, you know, like I struggle with that. But again, as that generation handled that, that's why your generation now. And I dig the way you guys are attacking it because that's like it has to be filmed. Mm-hmm. We have to film. We have to march. We have to, you know, share our voices on something that is like it's morally, physically, and it's just wrong. So, but then we see the attack on the Capitol, and then folks are acting like that didn't even happen. So
yeah, it's still it's progress. I mean, it's still progress, you know, but.
But let me share with you what the other countries have said about all of that, just to round some of that off and keep everything light. England's been here since like 10. I mean, Rome, Italy, like the year, 0. They were here when Christ was here. England's been here for 1,600 years. And Germany and all of these years, and they said America, what are we at? 225, 250,
Oh yeah.
So they said so in the realm of countries, America's an adolescent now.
Right. As far as like
we ain't nothing but like 13 years. So when you were 13 and when we were 14, you like you threw a tantrum. You didn't know how to do it. So America it threw its tantrum now, and we'll have to we gotta hit puberty and we gotta mature, but it's like America's just we're in our young teens according to other countries, and so we'll figure it out. But it's just like you're a young country, and when you look at it, we're one of the youngest countries.
Yeah,
in the
we're
world.
not very old as far as when you look back to when we got established and that even goes back to slavery and the slave trade and all like that. When you go look at a timeline and you see like from 1600, 17, 18, it's not that long ago.
It's not that
When
long
you
ago.
really, and knowing that we can go back, back to when the earth was formed from crust and a rock, that was like 17 million, 18, whatever.
Yeah.
When you do that big time frame and you only see, because we're 2021 now,
Yeah.
like I said, and then go back to like 16, 17, that's not that far.
It's not that far.
And that's why when a lot of people are like, oh, that was a long time ago, or that was like, it's really not. And even if it is, we still have effects as far as like racism and racial relations. It's still trickling down from when it happened. And it's just like we gotta establish that it happened and then remember that it happened and act on that this happened and it's affecting people. So
I mean, even we had like the Spanish Inquisition and all that stuff in Spain where they just tortured people to death. Now, if we check that out, that might have went on for like 400 years before they got that together. In England, where they would, kill you if they thought you was a witch. I mean, they would brutally rip your body apart, and that went on for, hundreds and hundreds of years. It's just that they've been around for thousands of years but I mention that to say all countries have that instability moment within itself, and America's no different. We're just younger with the new technology and everything that we can see exactly what's going on.
okay, so it was something else I wanted to segue to back. So like I wanted to ask about my name, the origin of my name, and also like my birth, or like seeing me and like the first moments. Like, so how was that? I know a little bit of how I got my name, but I don't fully know it.
Okay, when you were born, so me and your mother, we made a deal. So when the children were born, and we decided, even in our times, a lot of folks think we were ancient, but we had ultrasounds like they have the reveal parties and all that. Yeah, and we didn't want any part of that. We didn't want to know what any of the genders was. We just prayed for healthy babies. And so with that being said, we had to think of two names. So, and what would be interesting is to find out from your mother what your name would have been if you would have had to been female. So we had to think of different.
Because you named the boy's mom.
Yeah, I named the boys, and your mother named the girls, and so we thought of names, and she thought of a name, and my male name was Terrence, and the reason why I chose Terrence was because. Now I'll tell you what your cousin Danny believes. There was a tennis star at Tech High School named Terrence. His name was Terrence Chaney, won state and state tennis championships. And father was a very famous reverend, and they had a spiritual group, the Carlton Chaney Singers. So Danny always like, you name, and I did admire Terrence. He was 2 years, he was a senior when I was a sophomore. But actually, I hadn't kept up with him, and there were no relationships between me and him. The name Terrence just to me was just a smooth name. I went with T because of my name with Timothy, and I wanted a name a letter with that. And then the middle name was Stefan, because the hottest show at that time, #1 show at that time, was Urkel, but his alter ego.
Yeah.
His alter ego, super cool. Which
was a play off of the Nutty Professor, which was also because Eddie Murphy took that from. It's another movie that's a Nutty Professor. Eddie Murphy's isn't the first one. So that, but this idea has been.
That was Jerry Lewis.
Yeah, right. So this thing that was the play on the nerdy guy become kind of like the Jekyll and Hyde thing. It's a thing that we had seen several times over. But yeah, so. That was his alter ego.
So yeah, so as the actor, you know, Jaleel White was saying like he got tired of playing like this nerdy role. He wanted to show that he had more, you know,
More range.
more range. Yeah. And so when they came out with that, and I was like, that's just a smooth name, Stefan. And so well, that's where your middle name came from, right there. And then as far as it's like the birth and everything now. Your birth was one of the, I don't want to say troubling. It wasn't troubling, but like we
difficult.
had difficult. Yeah, difficult because I was all about like your mom and us. We did whatever made babies healthy. And from the first one from your brother Tim, I had to do. We did Lamaze. And this is a thing where the daddy.
I don't know if people still do Lamaze.
I
I know it's been in every sitcom. It's in My Wife and Kids, Damon Wayans.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
in every sitcom where the dad is doing Lamaze with the wife. I don't really know if people do it.
I don't think they do that anymore. But and it's every sitcom, you know, it's only like the one lone brother up in there. I was that one lone brother up in there, and so we did that, and so we were all about the health. So when it came to you, I don't think we weren't doing Lamaze then. So, but it was like if you took them to the symphony while you were in the womb, you could get like they say you could sing. My mother sung to her plants, and my mother had the most beautiful plants. So these people who are smarter than me said, you know, you take your child.
I've heard about playing Mozart and like Bach and stuff to people. Well, like
Yeah.
real smart, genius people. If you play Bach and stuff to like your babies, even from infancy, I mean, to carrying it to infant, to like they'll be smarter, like they'll be more stimulated.
More stimulated, yeah. So like you hit about a symphony a month. I mean, through your 9 months, that was the thing. We was taking you to the symphony. But the only thing is, I gotta ask your mother, which was the heaviest baby that she had. But I know
I think it was me.
when she had you, her belly would throw her equilibrium off, and off balance. And so she fell with you a couple times.
I'm almost positive it was me because I have these little extra pinky finger things from whatever that came from,
Mhm.
and I'm double jointed, and I'm allergic to like everything. So I knew something was well. And from what Mom said, I was supposed to be born on Linnell's birthday on the 18th, and I came out on May 1st.
Yeah, you didn't. Yeah.
So, however,
Because next they was gonna try to induce something.
Yeah.
They was gonna do some unnatural, but the doctor, I mean safe, but they were gonna induce. And the little pinky things, that's your mother's gene right there, because Eb has them too. And but every time we would go, you know, like her center of gravity was off. And like she fell a couple times. It was one that was raining and it was muddy, and she stepped and fell. And we always hoped that, but it was but everything turned out fine. And so we did all that to ensure the best we could for you. And now, now the day of your birth, that's another interesting story. The day of your birth, finally you're coming. And so they said, we're going to do this, induce something. If it don't be by this, but you move naturally all on your own. And so when the day of your birth came, we're heading to the Methodist Hospital. You're born there. So I was still competitively playing recreational league basketball at the Methodist Hospital. So we would play the Doctors, which was, the championship game was always the team I was on versus the Doctors. So in this game, just fighting for a rebound, I happened to hit a doctor, and I don't know if I broke his nose, but I know his nose bled profusely. So he went to the bench and he did something, and he fixed it himself, came back in the game. So that game was on a Sunday. You were born on Monday.
On Monday. I looked it up on the calendar. I just went back to May 1st, 95, and then it says what day.
Yeah, you was born on a Monday, so the day after that game. Now that doctor was obstetrician. So when you come, so we get there, and so I look and I tell your mother, I said, Rita, oh, remember that doctor? I said I broke his nose last night. yeah, that's him right there. And he was like, hey, Mrs. Reed, and everything's going to be fine. He was like, hey, excuse me. You look familiar to me. So I was like, no, man. Everybody say that. I said, I look like a lot of folks. He's like, no, you really, you were at the game last night. And I was like, hey, look here, look, don't take it personal. You know, that's my son inside her. No, but you know what he did? He hit, good shot, Reed. And he said, don't worry about it. And so that's just an odd story there. And so, but when you came out, then there still was another twist there. Your labor, your umbilical cord had became wrapped, something around your neck. And at that point, when you're in the womb, of course you do everything in the womb. So body needed to make a bowel movement. So you're ready to take your first breath. So when they pull you out and they go in, so it was first breath, and then something went in the nose that the doctor said, hey, this is not a 10, but this is not perfect. Mm-hmm. So he had to take you from Rita. I mean, you didn't just come out and get to the wife, mm-hmm. Yeah. So he had to rush you to over there, and he did something, and he
he put that oxygen mask thing on me?
And then pulled, there was a blue thing that went up your nose, and it sucked everything out. He sucked everything out. And then he wiped you all down, and then he offered me the scissors. And he was like, Dad, yeah, everything's fine now. You can cut the cord. But, you know, the OG that I am, I'm like, no, man, you get paid for that. So, but not only you, I didn't cut any babies.
I was going to say, but did you do it for...
No, I didn't cut any babies' cords because I just didn't want to...
No, I can understand it because you would want them to... It's kind of like, I'm not supposed to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it's like tradition, but it's like, I would rather you do it.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I don't want you to have a big, long Audi.
Or I cut it wrong.
And then on the rest of your life, you'll be like, okay, Dad, now, where'd I get this from? So, no. And then, so he cut the umbilical cord for us, and then wrapped you up, gave you the mother, and then everything was fine. Well, until I got a good look at you. Now, when I got a good look at you, I mean, I thought you was a white baby. I thought you was a white baby because...
I mean, our skin tones definitely differ.
Yeah, I mean, you had pink in your ears. So what I did, I called your grandmother. And I said, Mama, yeah, come down to the hospital. And she said, why, something wrong? I said, no, everything is cool. Come down to the hospital. And she said, why? I said, look, I want you, I think Terrence is white. And then she said, but she asked me the real question. She said, so you thinking you don't trust Aretha? And I was like, Mom, come down to the hospital. And so she said, she wouldn't come to the hospital. So she told me to go do inspections on you. So when your mother is holding you, I'm coming and she said, well, look inside his ear. So I was like, hey, Rita, hi, Terrence. Rita, what are you doing? You know, they put that hat on you. So I'm like, I'm just holding my son. What are you doing? So I take you and I flip your ear up. So it was pink. So I was like, it's cool. So I give you back to your mother. I go back, and mind you, now we on payphone, so I got to keep going for quarters. And then I go, bring, and I tell your mother, I say, yeah, the ears are pink. Well, Timmy, look on look by right by the base of his fingertips. That's where they're going to be the darkest at. So I said, yeah, but they have y'all all bandaged up.
Yeah, so we don't like cut ourselves with the nails. And...
Super sharp. Yeah. They come out super sharp. So here I go again. And I'm laughing now because I could just imagine what was going on in your mother's mind. Like, he ain't never did this. What is he doing? So I was like, Rick, let me hold the baby. I take the little thing off and I look. And then I run back to the phone. I dial your grandmother. And I was like, Mama, yeah, the pink down there too. And she was like, yeah, Timmy. And it was, well, I think that's when she hit me. Or what are you trying to say here? And I was like, no, of course, I trust Aretha. So, but you just had your mother's complexion. That was another, that's just how genes go. Mm-hmm. And she, so I've always looked at you as a light-skinned me. As you were coming up when you were 7, 8, 9, even at 12. And
no, I mean, I feel like I got physical, well, because the traits are dominant. They're pretty dominant as far as like height and size and everything. But I feel like I got Mom internally and then I got you externally. Mostly.
Yeah.
Well, because sports, basketball, physique, size, comedy, entertainment, like TV, stand up, all of those. I'm the last child. You're the last child. It mirrors a lot. But so I can always see that, and then when I see other people say it, well, other people like when I see you introduce me to them, they will always say that immediately. They always say that. So that I get. Okay, so I'm gonna do like two more parts. There's two more. So the next thing, I got a game. I got one more thing. I'm gonna go to the game, and then we'll call it at that. So, obviously now dating is a lot different from the 70s and 80s and 90s, and it's just kind of it's a lot more pieces everywhere. And
Yeah.
so, do you think that it will be harder now, or do you think that relationships are better? I would say back, let's say like 80s and 90s than they are now, just because back then it was more, I would say, genuine and like sincerity, because y'all really like interacted with each other and then didn't interact with each other. Like, it was either y'all here or you're not, like y'all together or apart. And now, whereas we can talk to everybody all the time, anytime, wherever. Like, I can go talk to somebody in Australia, like, right now. But like, you're never away from me.
Yeah.
As far as, like, a romantic standpoint.
Yeah, I think in my day, I think back then, I think there was a better bond there initially, because and that comes from that whole thing from your mom and dad got to meet their mom and dad, and it was almost like if mom and dad didn't sign off on it, you were apart.
Like courtship.
Yeah, we had courtship, and exactly, because that's what they said, Timmy's courting, and I didn't know what that meant, but and courtship could be as little as going over and doing homework every night. Yeah, Timmy's courting her. So that meant in the neighborhood, no other guy could do homework with her. And all we did was homework. I ate dinner with her mother and her father, then I went back home. And that was, but then you would say, are you my girlfriend? And I would say, am I your boyfriend? And if we both said yes, the courtship started there. And so that versus like today, I mean, even when they said friends with benefits, all of that, it was like you were courting, because the difference was your family name was attached to it. Yeah, like I say again, my father proud about being Reed. If the girl, the last name was Arrington, he didn't want to hear anything about a Reed doing anything in the Arrington house that he did not approve of. That was just a sign of ultimate disrespect from the families. So that really made you be a certain way. I can remember the first girlfriend that I had cooked something to eat that she didn't know how to cook, and she allowed me to share it with her father there. And when my first instinct was like, oh my God, and he looked at me, I was like, it's good. It's just pretty good. And then he was like, yeah, that's what you do, man. And then, but I looked, he didn't eat his, and he threw, so even from her father, it was just a way that you like, hey, this is how you date, okay? While you're here. Now, if it's not good enough and you're away, then be away. But if you're gonna be here, everything's gonna be like on the TV set. Wait till father gets home and all those sitcoms where it's always great. And so you lived in that world. Now, and I had a little bit of it in the late 80s. We started having dance clubs. We had a club called Piccadilly's here in the 80s, late 80s, the 88, early 90s. And with the brothers, we called it Piccadisees, but it was called Piccadilly's. And then, yeah. So we had some of that where, you can date and it was just for the thing of dating. But see, then that brought out a whole nother thing, because that's when herpes and all the diseases went vogue.
Yeah, that's what I know. AIDS was a big deal.
And so I, some part of that I came up from, it steered clear for me from that. That's because now when I met your mom, just dated your mom. And so now the trick would be now, but I think dating is still the same. The deal is you find that person that you dig and dig you. And if it's on the real, then that's what it is. And actually, even from there, if it's on the real, it's on the real. I didn't like the way that girl cooked then. I didn't marry her because I'm just keeping everything real.
But that's why, for me, just the generational thing, it's nothing's real. Like
Oh.
that's what I mean. It's like nothing's real. It's just like everything is fake. It's Photoshop. It's altered. It's just like stuff is real, but you're gonna take at least 4, 5, 6 times longer to find out if it is. So I
Yeah.
mean, because everything can be fabricated and duplicated and replicated and synthetic. It's just like
Yeah.
the amount of time you take to figure out if it's real. In my opinion, it's just like, because like I said, there's so much. There's just everything now. It's text, it's apps, it's messages, it's Instagram and Snapchat, and there's all these. You can be this many things. Like
These many things.
if it's real, it's real. But now it's just like it's like if you thought you found gold. I talked about fool's gold yesterday with Tyler. It's like you find a lot of fool's gold. You think it's gold because
Yeah.
it's the same tint and it's the same weight or whatever. But when you crack it open or you look at it, oh, this is like coal or something.
Yeah.
It looks like gold,
Yeah.
but it ain't. And that's just, I feel like, I don't know if that's just me, how I've seen a lot of stuff, but it's just like there's not as much sincerity and genuineness as people think that they want it to be. And not that the 80s and 90s were different, but I just feel like you kind of got to be a little more head on. You kind of got to be more interactive with that person because they have nowhere to hide. I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
You got to
That's
go.
exactly what it was.
You got to take them to dinner, or you got to.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to go to the dance, or you got to take
Yeah.
them to go skate, or you got to go do whatever.
You had to do that. Yeah.
Now it's just like, I might message you, I might not. I might see the message, not answer the message, because I don't want you to think I'm into it. So I'm gonna wait 2 weeks to message you back, and then I'm gonna act like I'm busy when I do message you. It's just like, which I know you
Yeah.
can do that in any. We can go through any year. or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just so like
And then
we're not helping ourselves.
Yeah.
And nobody. We're all just kind of like trying. I don't feel like now we're all trying to one up people or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I know where you're going to, but when you first said either you were there or you weren't, there was a lot of, they weren't girlfriends, but girls I liked, and here comes the movie of the year out, and I didn't take them. Then they was like, they would X you out. It would be like something just that minor to them was like a 12. Like, you didn't take me to the movie? Okay, well, you can rip up that number. And it's like, okay, I really liked it, but you ripped up the number. Because then again, see, now I can't chase because it just wasn't the era of that. As far as, she probably went and told her father, I done broke up with him. You won't see him around here anymore. So you just, but here's the thing. Sometimes you walk with a lot of anguish just from something that you thought was a nothing that just was like, oh man, if it was another period, this wouldn't have meant anything. But I think when I talk to some folks closer to your age and your generation, when I hear them talk about the problems that they're having with boyfriends, significant other, baby daddies, baby mamas, and the thing that I always seem to listen, that the same story I hear every single time, and it can be on Jerry Springer shows, it's been going on back to the tech again, and it's always, I've gone into his phone.
I guess, okay, yeah.
And I found something in her phone, which the underlying thing, and that will never change, is the trust. I never asked your mother for her wallet. At the day we came up, we had black books, our black book or a little green book, but we had a little book of the ladies that we very, very liked and enjoyed time with. When you got married, you're supposed to give those up to your best man, and I gave mine up to my best man, and you walked away from that. But we never once, like she never said, who's in your black book, or do you have a black book?
And that's not to, but that's more like, I remember there was an episode on Fresh Prince where Will gave it to Carlton, so I know, where he had his little black book. But then even at that same time, not to say that it's old, but it's older, it's more analog. I mean, it's a physical copy of a book with numbers and names. That's what I mean, like this thing, this can go through the whole world in 30 seconds.
Oh,
That's what I mean. Like,
yeah.
So I mean,
I
like,
was just limited to the
yeah,
names in the book.
that's what I'm saying. Like this, so like whether you've been, I mean, just if they've been married a year, 5 years, or 10, he's still gonna have a phone. And it's just like, well, either if y'all reach that point where y'all trust each other enough to go into each other's phones, or I feel like you should trust each other enough to not go through each other's phone. Because honestly, I don't really see a situation where you don't find something you don't like in that phone. It's just that's just how the phone is. That's something that goes back to Snapchat, Twitter, and Instagram.
Yeah.
It ain't gonna be aware you like, and it might not even be to the fault of the spouse, female or male. They might not be doing it, but somebody on the other end could be messaging them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then that goes to a side thing where I'm going to say, and then I'm going to go to the game after this. But it was like Ayesha Curry. It was one thing Ayesha Curry with Steph, you know, her and Steph are married, have kids, have like 2 or 3 daughters. They got the son now. Yeah. Ayesha Curry was getting so mad, so infuriatedly mad that nobody was looking at her. Nobody was looking at her message, at her picture, nothing, dry. You're married to Steph Curry.
Yeah.
With 3 kids. What do we look like looking at you?
At you, yeah.
So, and I know, and for me saying that, I know that's her womanly thing, but it's just like, y'all gotta understand, I know Ayesha, like, bro, we're not looking at you because you are Steph's wife. You got 3 kids. What are we supposed to, you want us to DM you? Yeah. Like, that's what I'm, for you to say no? Yeah. Like, that's what I'm, so, and it's also a lot of those other spouse, like, what she was feeling. Not that she was necessarily, like, not ugly or anything by any means, but not feeling wanted enough. Not only because she doesn't see Steph all the time. So I know it's just her and them kids. But her being like that, I want people to look at me like she should as a woman, which I understand. Yeah. But then that goes back to that rabbit hole of that phone. So it's just like, because would you look at Steph's phone? Because Steph don't have the same thing in his phone. Yeah, yeah. And not because of his fault. It's because he's Steph Curry. Yeah. So that's that's my thing about that with the phones and everything.
So can it be that text sometimes it puts added pressure on you that you wouldn't even have just because you're there? See, if she was back in my day, she would probably have pictures of herself all around the bedroom. So whenever I walked in there, I would see nothing but her. But she would be that girl, wear a picture of herself on her shirt. So, but when you get that mental into this where you could, and it's not happening, then you'll get that reaction. So it'll be like, hey, anybody looking at me? She could have been a high school cheerleader or something like that. And that is the devil with the details. But my last thing on that, and then I'll enjoy the game here, is I'm going to go with trust. I tell them all when they were, again, asking for OG's advice, be there a young dude, a young lady, I was like, it's Murphy's Law. If you think there's something wrong, you keep looking in there for something, then there's something. There's something that's telling, something is driving you that. And then I tell them to first go nurture that and find out that. You may not even have to go there, but whatever is telling you that you need to go there, you already know there's something there. So I think when you say, and then I'll wrap it up too, but I think when you're saying like fool's gold and fake, you also have this. You have a person now, because I guess of all of that we can get into, that they know that there was somebody that's not the one for them, but either they're holding on to that because it's like it's like a bologna sandwich I'm still eating, but I'm looking for my steak. So, but while you're doing that and looking for your steak, then you're wondering, okay, well, what is he nibbling on the side as this going on? So I think it's like that. I think it still goes back to, it's Murphy's Law. You know, if anything's wrong, gonna be wrong, it's allowed to be wrong. If you think it's something in there, I think it's like just nurture yourself on where that comes from.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get into the game. It's kind of like a shorthand version. It would have been a little bit longer, but I just made it shorter. Okay, so the game is going to be, I just wrote down like some older, not older characters, but like 80, 90 characters, like action stars, a little bit. I didn't really get to dive into it because I made it in like 3 minutes. But then it's a couple Marvel characters in there too. Kind of try to put them all in the same type of power level skill set so they're not like too outpowered. And then I just want to see if I can guess who your choice would be out of the 2 people fighting. I played this game with Tyler. It was just a little. I keep tweaking it a little bit. So
that's cool.
I'll just let you. You can write down. I'm gonna give you the choices, and then You can pick whatever marker. I just bought these. I bought them at Target. I'm just trying to see if I